Hey there, this is Game Tight, coming to you direct from America's couch. And this is my very first episode of What You Don't Know Will Hurt You. Got it? What you don't know will hurt you. This video is about covert and illegal projects done by the FBI or America's government. It also goes into the top branches to the upper echelon, the head person in charge, the president at the time. Also, we're going to start with the COINTELPRO. COINTELPRO is short for Counterintelligence Program. This was created by the head of the FBI at the time, J. Edgar Hoover, who was a known racist and homophobe, even though he was gay himself. COINTELPRO targeted domestic political organizations, anti-Vietnam War organizations, feminists, Puerto Rican groups such as the Young Lords, also civil rights movements headed by Martin Luther King or the Nation of Islam, Malcolm X, and the Black Panther Party, to name some of them. They use modern warfare tactics on American citizens with no regard. Covert operations included planting false reports in the media, still doing that today, harassment, wrongful imprisonment, illegal violence, and psychological warfare, and also assassination. Attorney General Robert F. Kennedy approved this in the wiretapping of Martin Luther King's phone. Robert F. Kennedy is JFK's brother. You know, JFK is supposed to be this great president and stuff, but we see that he was, him and his brother were targeting a lot of political organizations because they approve these things. These things doesn't happen without the head knowing, and the head was the Attorney General Robert F. Kennedy's brother at the time, so we know he knew. The desensitization of America when President Ronald Reagan himself started the crack epidemic of the 80s. As him and his wife Nancy Reagan started the war on drugs by using slogans such as "Just Say No," they secretly approved tons of cocaine and weapons to be sold in the inner cities or ghettos of America. This is well documented. Mercury News published a story called Dark Alliance that blew the story wide open. After pressure from the government, they had to take any information about the CIA out of it. Then they reposted the story, but it was too late then. The word was out now. Now, Reagan wanted hostages in Iran freed. He worked a deal to give them weapons through the CIA, like missiles and guns, surface to air missiles, big weapons. I ain't talking about the little stuff. They give them guns and, automatic weapons, that stuff too, assault rifles. But they was giving them the big stuff, supplying Iran with it right now. So you think about it. If they were supplying Iran with it back then, and now them and Iran are at odds. Iran had American hostages at the time, so Reagan was desperate for his image to get those hostages freed. Well, that's why he worked to deal with Iran. But he used a middleman, which was Israel, to funnel the weapons and stuff to Iran. Well, after one time of that, this is what history says, after that, basically the CIA wanted to deal directly with Iran. They didn't want to go through Israel anymore, probably because they didn't want a paper trail or people to know what was going on. You could see the seeds already being planted. Well, after they cut the middleman out, which was Israel, and they dealt directly with the Iranians, a side deal was made to give money to fund an army for the CIA. It was down in South America. They needed the guerrillas down in South America, guerrilla warfare, the guerrillas down there to help them fight for something else. So not only would they give money to Iran and weapons and stuff, they're also going to funnel an army down in South America, Nicaragua. All right, if you want to be blunt, Nicaragua, and they were sending money down there to the guerrillas down there to start an army. The CIA was starting an army down there to help them fight for a cause. So they cut a side deal with Iran. If you look it up, it's called the Iran-Contra affair. Now, they're using taxpayer money to give to Iran to free the hostages, taxpayer money to buy weapons. And that's exactly what they did. They cut the side deal with the guerrillas also to fund them. So they were shipping money down there, and basically the guerrillas in Nicaragua were in cahoots with the Americans. And the Americans decided to help them out and let them do what they could to give some of that money back. Because you have to explain for the taxpayers' money just going like that. So what they did, those cartels that America is so worried about today coming across the border, they were funded from back then, yes, by America. Yes, they were funded by America. And what they did was made the deal that side money to give it back to the American taxpayers was they had plenty of supply of drugs, heroin and cocaine, that they were going to distribute throughout America, in the inner cities of America. Some people might say, whoa, it's not an inner city anymore. It's an epidemic everywhere. Yes, but this was the start, and this was what it was for. The ghettos, the poor communities. They were going to make money off of our backs. Didn't want to tax the rich and get it. But that's another story. Back to the program. All of this is detailed in movies, on the internet. It's historical facts. Clear up and to the point to the CIA. You know, they're not going to admit anything. So we know what happened now. It's detailed. As a matter of fact, on Amazon, it's Iran-Contra series on there where you can look and get some of these facts. Now, they wanted to recoup the taxpayer money, and in order to hide the weapon sales and guerrilla warfare, they let the cartels flood America's ghetto with cocaine and heroin and guns. When President Reagan signed off on the weapon sales, giving money to the guerrillas in South America to fund them, he agreed to let them bring dope and guns into the communities throughout America. The 80s drug dealer Rick Ross, not the rapper, told his story about his connect from Nicaragua supplied him and others from Los Angeles to New York with cocaine and drugs. Now, we all know how the drugs got to the U.S. Movies from Paid in Full to rappers naming themselves after the 80s drug dealers tells us all about that. And also a conversation with Nixon and Reagan was unearthed recently, where Reagan called black people monkeys. So that kind of showed you a little bit about the racism that was going on back then. And Reagan, it shows his disdain for the black and African communities. Now, I have some statistics because to let you know what happened, what came about of all the drug sales in America. In 2018, the substance abuse and mental health statistics and quality says 1 in 5 people 12 or older uses drugs. Now check this out. 4 out of 5 people aged 12 or older perceive great risk of harm from weekly use of cocaine or heroin. Cocaine, 86.5%. Heroin, 94.3%. Now, in summary, we see America's government using tactics against poor Americans without regard for the death and anguish put on this nation for generations. Now, I don't know how we can overcome this besides knowledge and education and knowing what to do about this. But knowledge is part of the battle. But I do know what you don't know will hurt you. Pay attention.